Good evening, 7 o'clock, Friday night football pitch here on a Friday. We're all staying out the road of Storm Dara, trying to avoid the bad weather outside there. So sit at home, listening to the Friday night football pitch and dodge that dodgy weather. We're joined tonight by Paul Shanks of Clyde Media, or Clyde FC Media. We'll be taking a look at Clyde Football Club tonight. As always, I've got Dennis Newell, and as I'm host Cammy McDonald. Like, subscribe at YouTube, any good podcast app after the show tonight as well. Start with yourself, Dennis. How we doing? What kind of week you had?
I'm fine. Busy week, Cammy. Yes, but that's it. Weekend, I'm off next week, so no doubt it'll be freezing and it'll be wet just because I'm off, but a wee rest. That'll be fine.
Paul, good evening. Thanks for joining us and thanks for stepping in as a late substitution tonight. Now we know who to blame Storm Darrow, and then it's Paul Dennis's holiday this week.
No, delighted to be asked to come on regardless of the circumstances. I was never much of a player in my day, so being a substitute's probably my level, to be honest, Kelly.
Hey, listen, I think we could all get substitute. we could all get a game as a substitute bench on that substitute bench for Clyde just now, the way things have been. Although the last result, a good victory in the league, a couple of weeks off once with cup duty, what obviously Clyde didn't take part in, and 2 weeks ago the weather really put paid to any Clyde games. Paul, it's been a difficult, challenging season, one that I don't think many Clyde fans seen coming.
That's an understatement. That's an understatement and a half. It's been back-to-back challenging years. Last season, certainly the start of it, was perhaps less surprising when you look at the personnel. Up until obviously then when we made the managerial change and we bit of cash injection. January onwards, we were one of the better teams in the league, statistically. You roll forward into this summer and the positivity around the place was infectious. Not just inside the club, but outsiders looking in. I think we were probably one of three teams that just about everybody said, that's your three title challengers for League Two, pick from them. More often than not, people were nudging towards Clyde. And with good reason. I think when you look at, on paper at least, the recruitment done, the number that we brought in, the level that these players were coming from, it was hard to not see Clyde at the right end of the table for once. Yep. The League Cup campaign at the start of the season was a mixed bag. We started off brilliantly. We taking 5 off Edinburgh City. At that point, people weren't maybe thinking that was such a big thing, but I think when you look at the way the seasons have now went for both teams, it was certainly a much better performance than perhaps we gave it credence for. We followed that up then with the Tuesday night in Firhill, which not many Clyde fans will forget in a long time. Late Logan Donegie goal and the scenes, and it was a thoroughly well-deserved victory that night as well. And we're all thinking, just let us at this league. But we were close to getting through in the group stage as well. The final game against Montrose could have went anyway. Unfortunately, it went the wrong way for ourselves. But going into the league campaign, following a decent enough League Cup, we started off a bit meekly. And you were like, right, okay, maybe we're just finding our feet now in league duty. And I've just lost my camera. I'll keep going, guys.
Fine, I'll keep going.
The League Cup campaign, the start of the league campaign, we started off with back-to-back clean sheets, 4 points, and we're thinking, right, okay, that's a decent enough start. And then it just went flat, really flat. We beat we lost to Stirling, in the third game of the season. And it was probably the best we'd played up until Eastfight recently. It just went really wrong very, very quickly.
Yep. Obviously, that led to the change of manager. And I think around the club that certainly made some changes. Not least, obviously, the manager. But as I say, I think the performances, for me, have definitely improved from what I've seen. I think Darren Young's a slightly more open and adventurous style of play as well. And Dennis, you know this, when you have a wee bit more aggression and go at teams, you're definitely more liable to get results. And I think it got to a stage, Dennis, where Ian McCall was a wee bit negative, and there's been a complete transformation at the club in terms of the style of play.
I was listening to what Paul was saying there, but the quality of player is brought in. Is it a possibility that there may be too much experience at the club in relation to? I've experienced that when I was at Albion Rovers, and it was a team of really quality players that had been at the top, and you looked as if to say, all we need to do really is turn up. I wasn't a manager, obviously, there, but at the same time, I look at it and I just felt that when you seen the dressing room, it was good, but that experience never got them over the line, because there was an acceptance that what they've done at this level, done at a higher level, they didn't have to put so much work into it at a lower level. And the bottom line was you didn't get the best out of them. And there was a bit of, I'll use the word lethargic bits to their game that basically you couldn't afford to have two players off the boil then. And that's what happened. They didn't win the league because I just felt there was maybe too much experience in that team. You might think, well, you can never have too much experience. I can assure you, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you look at the Premiership in England, you just need to look at Chelsea not that long ago, and the experience had spent a fortune. But we're looking at the lower level, and I don't know if that's maybe the case with Clyde.
It's a good point. What I would maybe counter it with is that we don't have enough League Two experience.
Right.
So the difference between even League One and League Two in Scotland is quite remarkable in how much football is played. And that's not to detract from, there's some good teams in League Two. They play a certain brand of football that will get games won.
Mm-hmm.
There are also teams that will try and play the game the right way, quote unquote. For instance, Edinburgh City are one of the best footballing teams I've seen this season. Mm-hmm. Edinburgh City, who, well, I mean, everybody knows the trouble that they've had in recent times. I think that we would be 3 experienced League Two players, maybe in key positions, so like your centre-half, centre-mid, and even your old-fashioned target man type up top, from already being in the top 4. It's those fine lines.
Yeah.
I even take tomorrow's opponents for Clyde Peterhead, they have everything you need to be a top League Two team ready to go. And it's why that even if they get relegated from League One when they go up, you know they will be there or thereabouts the following season.
Yeah.
They've got the right players. We have brilliant players for a certain level and really good players for a certain level, but it needs just a wee bit more. And perhaps you can maybe just put it down to steel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you always need a spine in your team. I've always looked at anything with a football club, you need that spine from the goalkeeper, centre half, midfielder, forward. They all need to be spot on. And then you can even have youngsters to the side of you that can do a lot of running. Major efforts are created by somebody being able to sit in the middle of the park, a bit of composure at the back. And you see that you can go through all the top teams. They've got that spine, and that's what brings them success. And what's round about it, you can add to it, and you can shuffle it around, but you need that continuity by having that spine spot on.
Yeah. I mean, the discussion I've been having at games and have had for probably most of the season is the fact that I get the impression that Clyde players felt under Ian McCall that they really just had to turn, and it certainly wasn't the case, but they'd almost felt they almost had to turn up, but didn't have to put in the effort and didn't have to put in the work to win games. And I think that got to a stage there where it perpetrated itself. You know, it just kept on going and kept on going, even when the results weren't playing for them, you know, or weren't going for them. That was the underlying attitude, you know, was that players felt almost as if they just had to turn up. They were good enough to win most games, and that obviously hasn't been the truth, and they haven't almost put in the effort. whether that's subconscious or not.
But football's rife with that. More
Yeah.
so with what we talk about society all the time. The days are gone where you could rule with fear, or a player had what would you say, a respect for the club he was playing with, that there's always somebody that he can go to if his face doesn't fit.
Yeah.
That would never always be the case years gone by. But I do believe that a change of manager sometimes can be the difference, just to get a bit extra out of them. You know, and it's not to say that McCall was doing a lot wrong. Probably he's putting more into it when he left the club than when he joined it, because he's trying to salvage it and get something out of it. So, you know, there's that change of manager and a fresh face can sometimes just pick players up and you go on a run. We see it all the time. That's always what's said. And Hearts is an example of that. They get a wee burst of energy when new manager come in, and sort of went flat after that. And that's a common occurrence, you know. So you just have to wait and see if you can get a few more results. Obviously, the East Fife result was excellent. You know, you wouldn't have said a month before you would have managed to go and get something against them. So it's a start anyway, Cammy.
Yeah. I think the thing, Paul, hopefully you're there. Obviously, there's no camera just now. Cool. But, I mean, I think the thing about the East Fife thing, more pleasing than the result, was the performance. You know, as you say, probably from the Stirling Albion game. And I thought Stirling Albion were one of the poorest sides I'd seen up to that point. And certainly in the first quarter of the season, I still thought still maintained they were one of the poorest sides I'd seen. But it was a performance against East Fife that filled me with kind of a bit of optimism. I thought they played really, really well. We're never in any danger of not winning that game. And they looked positive. They went to East Fife. And in all honesty, it could have been 4 or 5, you know, not just the 3. The one displeasing thing, I suppose, was losing the late goal.
Yeah, absolutely, Gammy. The performance that day could probably be summed up by Jordan Allen and himself. I think when you look at the Jordan Allen that Clyde are used to compared to what we can see in that game, was night and day. He played with a freedom. He was in everybody's face for the first whistle, as were the rest. Even the midfield players were pressing from the off, whereas before it was a hope we get the ball back. I think more than anything, there was a real determination in that performance, and with a wee bit of swagger, which, considering we were 12 without a win in all competitions, was really, really, really pleasing. So it is early days, as Dennis said, that result counts for nothing if we can't back it up with another 1 or 2.
Yeah. See, if you look at that, though, I mean, it was a home game for you. I don't know if you picked that up right, Cammy. It wasn't.
It was a home game.
Yeah, it was a home game. And basically, when you look at where you were to where you are now, you know, it's still second bottom, but you could be rooted to the bottom. And you know, I look at that and say to myself, that East Fife game was a million miles away for you getting a result when we spoke about the period before your manager get changed. So I think, no, that's an upward step. And obviously there's been hiccups because of internationals and cups coming up. So, you know, you just need to wait and see how it's going to come up shortly, which is against Peterhead. Now, there's a real test, but if you look at it, Peterhead are sitting below East Fife. And I mean, Peterhead's my tip for promotion, but at the same time, if you can do East Fife, you can do Peterhead, and then you've got a problem because the rest are all meant to be easier, and that's when the banana skins start.
Aye.
So you've got to take care of Peterhead first. If you get a result at home against them tomorrow, then I think the club has made a right good decision in changing the manager. Yeah,
I mean, certainly the record against Peterhead over the last few seasons hasn't been great, you know. It definitely hasn't been, but they've already been up in Balmoor. They've already drawn 2 each up there in a game that possibly could have gone either way, it finished 2 each. But as I say, it was one of these games where the result was something that wasn't expected. It was in the midst of Clyde turning in turgid performance after turgid performance. You know, so to go up there and get that 2 each draw, you would have hoped they'd have pushed on from that unfortunately wasn't the case. But again, they've had a 2 weeks break. Hopefully Darren Young's got a lot done in training and things like that, to instill something into the team. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Clyde can go out there tomorrow and get a decent result. The one thing is, what's the weather going to be like?
That's the thing I was going to say.
It's going to be the great equaliser.
Well, you might find possibly with it, depends how strong that wind is, or if you get snow, they've got to come down to the central belt. And that could change a lot of things. You might actually kick a ball and get something out of it.
Yeah.
On the flip side as well, Peterhead are very acclimatised to that particular type of weather. Anyone that's been to Balmoor will attest to the gale force winds that you're greeted with, even come April. So they'll certainly be a bit more used to it than us. On our record, Cammy, against Peterhead, it's not just a few years. You're talking decades worth, basically, since Peterhead came into the league in all competitions.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the definition of bogey team for Clyde. It's ridiculous. The club put up the stats, and I daren't say them aloud because it would get this podcast an X rating. But that bad. It's really, really bad. But the 2 each draw was good. It was a point gained for Clyde up there in any circumstance. We were up with a team that's fighting out with Peterhead for a title and being thoroughly scudded. So any point up there is gratefully received, and you just run.
Yeah, I've taken a few hidings myself up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Since they came into the league, they've always had a few quid, to throw at players, Rory McAllister and the likes, so they've always had a few quid, whereas Clyde haven't always necessarily had that, although obviously this season, as you say, there's been that kind of cash injection. Certainly they've flung that at a few players, as we know, a few salaries and things like that, but hopefully Clyde can get something from the game tomorrow and can push on. Paul, what's your thoughts on the season? Is top 4 just too much to expect, or the fact that it's still attainable?
It's very attainable when you actually look at the league, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. I was on with Colin, does a Blue Tune podcast, who I've got quite friendly with, and he asked me the same question. We're only 7 points off 4th. 7 points off 4th.
Yeah.
Considering the season that we've had to date, the draws are what has really, really killed us. Those insipid draws that you've mentioned earlier, and a couple of them just into results when you've not played well propels you right up into 5th at the moment. I mean, that's the madness. Bonnyrigg haven't had a good season. Even the Spartans, who were tipped with ourselves, have been probably underperforming just as much as us. I mean, I think you look at the Spartan squad, it's up for grabs still, 4th. 1st to 3rd, do they have enough of a gap? Probably. East Fife, I think you can see if they lose 1 or 2 players, I don't think they've got the depth that maybe some of the other teams have.
No, and I think you saw that a fortnight ago.
Yeah, Elgin are a machine right now. Home and away, which away form for them has been a bit of the kind of kryptonite factor for them. Elgin away at any time of the year has always been tough, but Alan Hale has turned them into a right good team. They're not maybe a footballing team in the way that maybe you expect a team to be top, but my word, are they stuffy and difficult to break.
Yeah.
And they've got that attitude that they never give up. See the Scottish Cup tie against ourselves, probably largely better team that day, but they just get results one way or another, this Elgin team, and I think they're going to be the nut that we need cracked for anyone to win it this year.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, looking at the rest of the League 2, what's your tips then? You've obviously seen every team, some of them twice. So who's your tips then? Is the money on Elgin to win the title? Do you think they've got enough to pit Peterhead and East Fife?
If I was a betting man, I would be putting it between Elgin and Peterhead.
Yeah.
I think Peterhead have got the experience factor over Elgin. it'll be interesting come January what Elgin do. They've got the Aberdeen Cup tie, which,
Yeah.
whilst they would have probably preferred that to be away from home, getting a wee bit more in the coffers, it will still be a decent payday. The other Borough Briggs, put my teeth in and try that one again. Borough Briggs, that'll be packed out.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good payday for them. I don't think it's a TV game. I don't think it was, but
Which surprises me.
I thought it was a shoe-in.
Yeah.
That looks like a proper cup tie, that, against two teams flying in their respective leagues. Yeah, Elgin, do they have enough experience to beat Peterhead? I'm not sure. January is huge for Elgin. If they can get one or two additions in the right areas, probably up top, I still think they're a goal scorer away. If they get somebody in, I think it'll be really, really tough to catch them.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I think so. As I say, they're definitely the toughest side I think I've seen. I mean, I know we've seen every league team this year, but I think the fact that Elgin had a man dismissed in the first minute and didn't look, let's be fair, we didn't look like scoring against them that day, so I think definitely are the hardest side to get something from, that's for sure, and I think I agree with you. I think defence definitely, crikey, listen to me with the American football talk defence, the defensive side of the game I think is what's going to get you titles and things like that. Yeah, you need the goal scorers and things like that to get results, but I think you need to have a good defence to win championships, and I think Elgin definitely have that. They're going to be a side who does not lose a lot of goals, and when you've got that, you're always in with a shout at the other end as well, and they've got a couple of guys who know where the back of the net is as well. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm with Elgin as well.
Strange thing to see Elgin.
Yeah,
a survivor in my eyes of League 3, League 2, and not having been put into, say, Highland League or something like that, because they have always been the equivalent of Albion Rovers, East Stirling, Cowdenbeath, teams that have disappeared. Not disappeared, but away from the day-to-day, what would you say, recognition of the leagues that we have now. And for them actually sitting where they are just now and hearing both of you mention how good they are, it's a breath of fresh air. I love that, because teams like that can go to the wall, and it just shows then that maybe if the East Stirlings of this world, obviously I've still got feelings for that club, and Albion Rovers as well, it just shows they can come back and end up being the equivalent of Elgin and just battling away at the top of that division and seeing if they can get out of it. But it's good stuff to see and hear that they're doing really well. But Peterhead obviously still tip them, but again, Clyde could put a dent in that tomorrow. The team that seems to have slipped for me, just looking at that while Paul was talking, was still in Albion. The last 4 games have lost 3 in the bounce, and then the one before that was a draw. Now, they were going along great guns, and all of a sudden they've came to a grinding halt, more or less. Yeah. So it just shows you it doesn't take much in that division to get yourself into the 4th spot where they are. But as you've rightly said, Paul, it doesn't take Clyde much to get there either. So yeah, big test for you tomorrow against Peterhead.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, as you say, Dennis, it doesn't take much. You're looking at the table just now, Elgin 2 points clear at the top, having played a game less than East Fife, who obviously occupy second spot. But when you look at Elgin, they've lost 1 game all season. They've won 4 out of the last 5, and they definitely do look the side to beat. That they've been consistent. It just all depends how they handle not so much the winter break, but how obviously they handle the winter, which I think could be 6 times we've mentioned the weather tonight, but I think the winter this year is going to be quite severe, and particularly further north. If you're getting games cancelled, that could play against them, but also it could play for them, because you're looking at sides who are part-time having to go up there and catch up games during the midweek and things like that as well, so it's one of these ones, do you get the points in the bag, or do you take the games in hand and look at teams who are going to go up there and visit you during the week?
Yeah, without doubt.
So that's it. Anyway, looking away from League Two. We'll come back to it when we look at the fixtures, Paul.
Yeah.
Dennis, do you want to look back at some of the last week's Scottish Cup fixtures, some of the important ones?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's really good as well is looking at the fixtures for the fourth round of the Cup, but we'll spend a few minutes on it anyway. Queen of the South beating Arbroath away from home 1-0. Ayr United beating in Greenock Morton. We had Andy Millen from Morton on last week. I think Andy was feeling a wee bit optimistic about maybe getting something out of the game, but Ayr United have obviously turned the corner there, and that's a great result for them in the Cup. Hamilton with Banks of D winning 2-1 away from home. I don't know how tight that was, but it certainly looks tight on the score sheet.
Yep.
Clyde Bank, well, they're the team that everybody seems to be looking at now for, I don't know, maybe it's the old name of Clyde Bank, and everybody's got a feeling, a soft spot for them. They have done exceptionally well as well. They've beat Bucky Thistle 2-0. Cove, I thought that's a shock result, beating Inverness Cali 2-0. They're obviously in dire need of something to happen very quickly, Inverness, or they're going to be plummeting out of control to a point where there'll be no return for them. Cowdenbeath going down 4-1 to Brechin. Edinburgh City getting beat 2-1 with Dunfermline. I thought maybe maybe it was a tight game, but I did maybe fancy Edinburgh City could have maybe got a shock in that one. Elgin, as you've said, doing exceptionally well. They beat Celtic Hearts 3-2, and Forfar drawing 3 each with Stirling Albion, but Forfar going through in penalties. Fraserburgh beating Annan 2-0, and obviously some of these clubs, when we go into the fixtures, will get magnificent ties on the back of this.
Yep.
Irvine Meadow going down 5-0 to Stenhousemuir. And Linlithgow Rose getting beat 4-0 with Raith Rovers, and I think that's the one Andy said, no, Raith Rovers will take care of that.
Aye,
It could maybe be an upset, but he's got that right, as well as Raith Rovers going through. Livingston beating Brora Rangers 2-0. Musselburgh beating Bo'ness 3-1. I'm sure that was the old brigade of a good junior cup tie. And Peterhead getting down, and that's maybe something to be looking at tomorrow. Maybe Winded going down 3-2 to Montrose. Queen's Park and Partick Thistle 2 each, and Queen's Park winning 7-6 in penalties. And then Stranraer and Broxburn beating Stranraer 2-1. There was a game on the Friday night where Dumbarton beat Alloa 3-2.
Yep.
And I think we actually had a couple of games just East Kilbride. Now, that was another tester and one we spoke about, but obviously the strength of Falkirk is shining through there, where they beat East Kilbride 3-1 away from home. And also there was a game in the Sunday where Dundee North End went down 1-0 to Airdrieonians.
Yeah.
So just looking through some of these, was there any shocks in that, Cammy or Paul, that you've seen there? Anything jumped out?
The immediate ones, obviously, Stranraer getting beat at home by Broxburn, you know, so that's the one there. Queen's Park knocking Thistle out on penalties, was that a shock or just a great day for every other fan in Glasgow?
Yeah.
Great day.
But no, there wasn't too many shocks. I think a couple, but I mean, in terms of teams getting run close, you know, Hamilton getting run close, as you say, up at Banks of D, you know, but not really too many shocks. I wouldn't say Cove Rangers beating Inverness, Dennis, was a shock either. You know, I mean, Inverness bottom of that table.
You know, I think their expectations, and Inverness are a bigger team, and in a lot of people's eyes, and I think maybe that's what swayed me towards thinking that was a bit of a shock.
But nothing really. But obviously that leads to the fourth round draw, which I'll just let you get yourself together there, and then we can look at the fourth round draw.
Well, we've got Friday the 17th of January. Brechin have got Hearts, brilliant tie for them at home. Broxburn have Ayr United. I can't see Broxburn getting by that one, but I'll tell you what, they're at home in Broxburn. It's a different part. Broxburn's junior pitch, or junior as I know it, is quite a big pitch. So it'll probably suit Ayr that, you know. Cove Rangers, they've got Forfar Athletic. Dumbarton, Airdrie, fighting chance for both of them. Dunfermline, Stenhousemuir, another chance for each of them. None of them are home and dry. And here's the tie you mentioned earlier, Elgin against Aberdeen. Can't see them getting past Aberdeen, but what a fixture that is for them. if you ask the people in Elgin, they would have probably chosen that as a plum tie for them, without a doubt. Hamilton have Musselburgh, and here's the one that I think is really attractive. Hibs are at home to Clyde Bank. That's a great tie. Absolutely brilliant. And I think Hibs, without any doubt, will win that, being the full-time players, etc.
It is
That's the cup scenario. You never know.
Yeah. They might want to start concentrating in the league.
Yeah, Queen of the South have got some Queen's Park and Montrose, Ross County, Livingston, and that'll let us see if Livingston's got what it makes to come back up again.
Yeah.
St Johnstone and Motherwell,
Premier League tie.
Celtic against Kilmarnock. I'm sure Kilmarnock are really looking forward to that. And then on Sunday, the 19th, you have Falkirk, Raith Rovers. Good battle in that one. And here's a real plum tie for a team that I'm sure will be over the moon. Rangers are playing Fraserburgh. The Sunday ties are 12 o'clock for the Falkirk Raith and 2:15 for Rangers Fraserburgh. The Celtic game against Kilmarnock is the only one that at this moment in time I see a time arranged. The rest of to be arranged yet. On Monday the 20th of January, you've got Dundee playing Dundee United. Another magnificent tie. Some of them,
game.
You look at that and you say to yourself, I'll tell you what, a lot of them are really going to be brilliant ties. And for the minnows, I think great opportunity again and get the big boys if you've got a decent tie yourself. The likes of the Dumbartons or Airdrie and stuff like that, or Cove and whatever. So when you look at these ties, you've still got a lot to be playing for, and it'll be interesting, very interesting. So we'll see what comes up.
The big tie there right away, Paul, that sticks out is obviously the Monday night game, the Dundee Derby. Up there at Dens. Television's obviously taking that one. So that's definitely, to me, the tie that stands out ahead of any of the other ones.
Yeah, if you're looking for your good old-fashioned slobber knocker, that's probably the game. I think the history of that fixture, the locales of both teams and everything about it, it's a derby I've enjoyed. I don't always enjoy watching, like, so the Edinburgh derby, they can always be a bit
crap.
Quite frankly, and the Dundee derby always just seems to bring that wee bit more about it.
Yeah.
Will it be the greatest football match in terms of quality? No, go and watch La Liga if you want that. But see, if you want blood and thunder football, blood guts and thunder football, that's going to be the place to be. I think it's a cracking pick. I think the picks can be sometimes questionable when it comes to what's taken forward for the televised games.
Yeah.
That's a tap in for the broadcasters. I think the other fixture that I like the look of is randomly, and it's only because I think for me it was the biggest upset was Fraserburgh beating Annan. Yeah. Probably not because Annan are in great form, but purely from a league position standpoint.
Yep.
And for them to get a payday that they'll get, Ibrox will not be a sellout. I don't think anyone's expecting that. But they'll be able to live off the proceeds of that game for a good while.
Yeah.
And I think they're roughly mid-table in the Highland League as well. So it's not as if they're the kind of front runners. So for them to have the season that they've had so far, maybe they've wanted to challenge for a league title for, maybe even getting themselves into the pyramid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably just reward if they're not going to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, though, that's the romance of the Cup, and that's what this does. Otherwise, you would just look at fixtures and go, Scottish Cup. It's not exactly setting the hell on fire. But the reality of it is, nearly every one of the ties has got something for me that I wouldn't mind watching, honestly.
No.
Raith and Falkirk as well. It's another cracking
tie. Yeah. And then you look at the ties that are almost foregone conclusions. Kilmarnock going to Celtic Park, which I'm assuming has got the time arranged, Dennis, already because it's a TV game or whatever else. It's one of these ones that, unless you're a die-hard Celtic fan, it's a game you're not going to want to watch because it's going to bore the arse off you after 20 minutes when Celtic are 2-0 up and cruising, and you can almost write the script for that one already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know.
But again, great tie. And if you look at it, would you be making any ties up? No, I think you would be waiting and somebody saying, well, are these ties going to come around? And a cup tie, well, very seldom do they do for the likes of Fraserburgh against Rangers. So, yeah, I think we've seen it last year with Celtic. Celtic had a team, where was it? Was it Bucky? Might have been Bucky. Something like that.
I think it was a Highland League team, yeah.
Yeah, Bucky. And for weeks, Bucky were celebrating just getting there and playing against Celtic. So, Fraserburgh will do the same. I mean, absolutely magnificent for them to be getting that far. And you know something, it gives other teams a chance and a bit of hope. You say to yourself, well, if Fraserburgh can do it, so can we.
I don't think there's many Rangers fans who've had a bottle of Fraserburgh, but...
No. Well, that's true. I get that one, Tammy. Okay, moving on. Where are we going next?
Hey, let's look at the fixtures tomorrow. Let's just rattle through, get the fixtures tomorrow out the road, and then we'll take a look back at the midweek results, I think, in England and Scotland.
Right, you want me to start with the Premier League?
Start with the Premier League. Let's go.
Right, okay, well, we'll just pick up on Wednesday's results. Dundee, maybe a shock result, beating Motherwell 4-1. A shock result was Rangers beating Kilmarnock 6-0.
Yeah.
And a tighter game than we might have thought was Aberdeen and Celtic. And the reason I say that was I still think Aberdeen are still playing catch-up. We're not having enough rest in between matches to give themselves a fighting chance when they come up against the big guns.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the lack of squad depth is starting to show itself up a bit.
It's catching up with them a wee bit, Cammy, I think. That's maybe making an excuse for them. They had a no bad result, Hearts, on the Sunday, the before that midweek game, where Hearts and Aberdeen drew 1 each, and Rangers managed to get through 1-0 against St Johnstone up at Perth. So that was last weekend's fixtures and the Wednesday. Was that a shock, Cammy? Do you think Dundee beating Motherwell 4-1?
I think the level of daylight between them was probably a bit of a shock. I mean, I don't think many folk would have expected 4-1, but Motherwell seem to be starting to struggle a wee bit, under Stuart Kettlewell. Ket seems to be. I think the Motherwell fans are starting to shout for his head. I've seen guest on the show a few times. Hugh Toner, Shug's been posting some stuff on Twitter. Pretty much feeling that Motherwell haven't progressed over the last year. And he's looking for a change, So I think things are starting to turn a wee bit at Motherwell. So, no, I don't think getting beat was a shock. I think losing by 3 goals was probably the bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I've heard snippets that supporters didn't like the style of play.
Yeah, they think he's too negative, I think.
Yeah, but Cammy, they're sitting in 6th spot. And they've lost 4 out of their last 6. So you say to yourself, you're still sitting in 4th, 6th spot. You've not really got a lot to moan about until such times that you drop out of that zone when you maybe drop down to about 8th or 9th where Ross County and St Johnstone are. Then you've got problems.
Yeah.
But, what does Motherwell supporters want? You've got to have a reality check sometimes and say, where should Motherwell be? And to me, I think where they are at this moment in time is a really good position, and I think they've been achieving stuff fairly well when you look at where they are at this moment in time. And I find there's a problem we've got, that after 2 games, this has already created the fact that Stuart Kettlewell's under pressure. I mean, we're not talking about the last result, we're talking about previous to that. And I kept looking and going, how can that be when they're sitting up there in 6th spot with a couple of bad results and they want the guy out the door? It's typical of football supporters. When managers are at a club for over a year and things don't go right away, they want you out the door. Absolutely no loyalty whatsoever. And what they don't realise is that it's the same tools the next guy is going to be working with. And you've got to look at the team and players that Motherwell have got and say to yourself, I think they're doing well. If anything, slightly punching above their weight. Now people will go, behave yourself. No, that's not the case. I think they are. And that might sound silly when they've lost the next 3 games. But obviously, you've then got to look at the next game. And this is a real tester for them. They're away to St Mirren. And you would then expect to say, if it's 4 in the bounce, then you can maybe start moaning a little bit. But to hunt them out the door, no. And you look at other clubs, they're all the same. 3-4 results, bang, supporters want you out. As if there was divine right for success. And that's where people need to stand back sometimes and just evaluate what finances are at the club and what really expectations of the club itself are.
But the trouble with that, Paul, is if it's 4 on the bounce there, it's going to see Motherwell drop out that top 6. They're going to drop from 5th down to 7th if St Mirren get a victory tomorrow. You know, and I think that's where, and it's the style of play again, Dennis. You know, it's that they maybe supporters feel Motherwell should be a wee bit more positive, you know. But I mean, they've only scored 7 goals at home in 7 games. They've got 10 goals away in the corresponding 7 games as well, you know. So that's a side who's scoring an average of one goal a game, you know, and that's the thing I think that are disappointing fans. They expect a wee bit more from when they're going along to be entertained, you know, and if they're not being entertained and not seeing a style of play that they feel the side can come up with, that's when they're going to see disappointed, regardless of league positions.
I see your side fully, Cammy, and I understand that side of it. Now, if they get beat by St Mirren at the weekend, I then look at it and go, yeah, there's no question mark. And you might say, well, that's a contradiction in what you've just said. No, there's been a build-up for the last half dozen games and the guy's back. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if you've got pressure, it'll filter through to players. I mean, there's been booing, there's been people on phone-ins and all the rest of it, having a go at Motherwell. Well, you know, the monster's almost been created by supporters as well. They've not really been, they're jumping the guy's back before. What would you say? You've gave him a chance, but rightly so. If it had maybe been last week, maybe the week before they started to look at it seriously, then after the game against St Mirren, they might have been getting into it with a wee bit more confidence. That's all I'm thinking.
Yeah. Paul Ketts has really been kind of struggling to get the Motherwell fans on sides. I say this has been longer than just the last 3 or 4 games. It has been the sort of backlash against him, Paul, has been progressing for quite a while, you know, and I like Stuart, you know. I mean, I've known him for a number of years. I've liked Ketts, and I have done since he was at Broadwood, you know. And I think he's got enough to turn it about, but he does need to start getting results and a level of performance, I think.
Yeah, it's to kind of maybe follow on from what Dennis kind of was touching upon. I think this is a top flight conundrum that teams probably out with 4 or 5 really struggle with it. What defines success for them?
Yeah.
Is it top 6 by any means necessary? Don't care about the style. We only care about the substance. It's about points on board, blah, blah, blah. If Motherwell were trudging their way to 1-0 victories and the football was honking, probably wouldn't be caring too much.
No.
Right now, you look at maybe Kelly under Derek McInnes and even under Steve Clark back in the day, they weren't pretty to watch, but they got the job done. And Kelly fans did not care.
Yeah.
The team was relatively defensive, or more often than not defensive, but they ended up, you know, 3rd in the league.
Yeah.
Kelly fans were bouncing. But it's that kind of baseline is what is success for Motherwell. Is 6th, as you touched upon, Dennis, a great result for Motherwell? Aye, it really is.
Yeah.
Because it's another 2 guaranteed games against your Celtics and Rangers. It helps boost that coffers again for the next season, as opposed to potentially dead rubbers, because Motherwell realistically wouldn't be a team you would expect to be in the bottom kind of 2 positions. Although, look at Hearts and Hibs this year. It can't happen to anyone. They could be playing dead rubbers against, teams that...
Triple to Ross County rather than Celtic Park.
Yeah.
You know.
And what one of the more likely to win? Would they rather go, you know, win a game against Ross County? No, they wouldn't. They would rather be in 6th place. So, yeah, I find... That's why I would never be a chairman of any football club, let alone a top flight one. Finding that balance between what is quantifiable success and reasonable success, I think it's near impossible to do in Scottish football with a certain pocket of teams.
Yeah.
And I think, like yourself, though, if anyone can turn it around, I do think Stuart Kettlewell is a good enough and young enough coach to learn from what's going wrong
Yeah.
and get a wee bit more. If he could get maybe a wee bit of wheeling and dealing done in January, if he gets that time.
Yeah, I think a lot depends.
Might help him.
A lot depends on the result against St Mirren.
Yeah.
Basically, because the demands on him after that, or the board looking at 4 back-to-back defeats and saying, look, we're now slipping, we need to bolster it. I can't for a minute think he would get the sack on the back of that, but you just need to wait and see. Anyway,
it's who you're losing these games to. That's the thing. It's not Rangers or a Celtic or an Aberdeen. It's sides round about you, and I think that's the thing that could end up swaying the balance of the board. And at the end of the day, we're losing to Dundee, we're losing to St Mirren, we're losing to Ross County. And I think that's the thing that could end up swaying the board.
But
a board will tolerate defeats to Rangers and Celtic.
But that league position, if you look at it, Motherwell's sitting in 19, so is Dundee. Now, if they had beaten Dundee, they're sitting equal in 4th spot with Dundee United.
Yeah, I know.
That's even further up the tree for it to have somebody on your back.
Yeah,
I think it's poor. It's poor to the point that if he gets beaten the next 3 games, I would say, then you question it. But see, at this moment in time, I think you should be encouraging what's on the park to try and do a bit more and give the manager a bit of support, even if he does get beat, as long as he doesn't get hammered against St Mirren. And look at it after Christmas and revisit it. As Paul said, see what you could maybe get in the January window and go for there. But look, see what's below them. They're never going to catch Motherwell and overtake them. And I know they might say, well, how can you say that? Because there's only a 2-game swing way down to 10th spot. The way they're playing is just a joke, some of them.
Yeah.
I don't think that they will catch Motherwell. But anyway, we could rant all night about Motherwell. Let's go to the next one where I normally have a rant. And this time I've got to say, hands up to Rangers. Absolutely brilliant result. Result again.
No, I thought the performance was exceptional as well.
Were embarrassing. Absolutely shocking. Worst performance I've seen of a Premier League team in a long number of years. But I'm not going to take that away for Rangers because the manager has changed that front line. And what a difference with Dessers coming off the bench, realising he needs to do something rather than miss point-blank sitters. What a difference it made with the 2 changes up front.
Yeah.
Breath of fresh air. No the finished article by any manner of means, but he's still not tuned into the fact that should have been done months ago when the guy Dessers wasn't scoring. So, I'm still not saying he's the finished article or the team is, but it went a long way to saying what an improvement that was.
Yeah.
And if you look at it in the space of a couple of weeks, they've scored 10 goals, 4 against European opposition and 6 against Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll forget the St Johnstone game where it's only 1 goal, but it's still a lot of goals. If they had actually got their act together, they could have had 2 games where their goal tally would have been 10 or more in each of them.
Yeah.
And that's against Kilmarnock and obviously the foreign game they had.
Yeah. I think what they've done, Paul, as well, but is for the first time this season, understand against Kilmarnock they went 4-4-2, and I think that was a big difference as well, playing 2 up front, and that does seem to have quietened the Rangers fans, certainly. It's got them 6 goals. I think it was 6 going on about a dozen. For the highlights that I've seen, Rangers could have been in double figures quite easily, for by 2 or 3 really good saves. The one thing, Dennis, is it wasn't necessarily bad misses, so, and I think that's the one positive as well, if you're a Rangers fan, that there wasn't a lot of glaring missed opportunities, but Dessers, missing sitters. So, yeah, it augurs well, but Rangers have been here already this season. They did the same to Ross County and then basically shit the bed, Listen, so they've done that, and
by no manner of means, Cammy, have they arrived yet?
No, definitely not.
They're still a good bit away from where they need to be. And, there's a strong test coming up for them to see what improvement is there. And it's not next week when they're playing in Europa League. It's actually when they play in the League Cup.
Yeah.
The final is the 15th of December. So, here's where you'll really see what milestone there is in relation to what progress they've made. And the rest will take care of itself in my eyes. But let's go back to a magnificent result for them. and against a Kilmarnock team that should have done better.
Yep. So we'll run through the rest.
Yeah.
Celtic's we'll run through the rest of the results as well.
Yeah.
Celtic Aberdeen. Celtic have got a good result there. They've kept going for the full 90 minutes, and another late goal has seen them victorious there, So fair play to Celtic. That result more or less clinches the league. Pretty embarrassing that it's won well before Christmas, But 11 points clear of Rangers, 7 points clear of Aberdeen, and Celtic have won the league and we're 6 days into December.
Well, I'll not jump in that quick, but I'll tell you what.
Who's catching them?
A massive jolt for other teams to go and take Celtic off that top perch. It really will.
Yeah, anyway, there's nobody else catching them.
Yeah, I'm just conscious of our time tonight, Cammy.
Yeah.
Because obviously you give me a row every week for rattling.
Still got a lot to get through, so let's rattle through the fixtures in the list of the leagues.
Saturday the 7th, which is tomorrow, Aberdeen St Johnstone, Celtic Hibs, Dundee United Kilmarnock, Hearts Dundee, and St Mirren against Motherwell, all 3 o'clock kickoffs. On Sunday, we've got Ross County, we're playing Rangers, and they're the ties that basically, it's good to see, with the exception, I was going to mention something a couple of weeks ago and just finish on it. It's see when the teams are playing in Europe and they don't play on a Saturday, the 2 big boys, Celtic and Rangers, I find it is diluting the Premier League on a Saturday. That's maybe a conversation for another day. But sometimes I don't get too involved when they're not playing. It's not because I support either of them. I just feel that they're the games that I always look out for, and the rest just follow suit.
Yeah. No, fair point.
Aye.
Definitely a fair point.
Yeah.
But that's happening whether it's European games or not. For a televised games, you're always going to get one of them televised on a Sunday. So that's the thing. Anyway, into League One, into
the Championship.
Championship, sorry.
Right, I'll just pick up on what the fixtures are. Dunfermline have Hamilton. Falkirk have Raith. The reason I'm skipping by it is because we had the Scottish Cup there and we touched on that where some of the teams were involved. Falkirk have Raith Rovers, Morton Livingston, Partick Thistle, Ayr United, and Queen's Park have Airdrie. And then next Friday we've got Livingston against Partick Thistle, which will be a right good tie as well.
Good games. A couple of good games there, Paul. I think that Ayr United at Thistle, and obviously Falkirk at home to Raith. Raith the side who ended Falkirk's unbeaten umpteen league game record only a few weeks ago. So they're coming to Falkirk in a Scottish Cup taster as well.
Yeah, I find it difficult to look past Falkirk nonetheless. I think many people maybe looked at the East Kilbride Cup tie for them as a first maybe real test. See if they're the real deal, because the Falkirk of maybe 2-3 years ago easily happily slipped on that banana skin multiple times over. Whereas I think now John McGlynn has this team just they're a winning machine. They just keep going and going and going. I would fancy them to win. Wraith could give them a bloody nose, but I can't see past Falkirk. I can't see them past them for the championship title. Fully expect them to be a Premiership team next year.
No worries. I stand by Livingston. I think they're Falkirk 6 points clear, but Livingston have got a game in hand, which obviously must be the next Friday game up potentially. But no, I still fancy Livingston. So,
well, the Falkirk game is a rehearsal for the Scottish Cup time because they're drawing each other. So that'll be interesting to see how it turns out. Morton, I would imagine Andy Millen's thinking if they get anything out of the Livingston match, they'll have done exceptionally well. Because obviously he'd said last week when he was on the show that Livingston was the best team in that division.
They're the best side in the league,
Yeah, so, and it was proved right when he predicted that Livingston would beat Falkirk, and it did. So, interesting. Airdrie getting a wee result. Maybe would that give them a lift for tomorrow when the Scottish Cup when they win? Do you think they could get something against Queen's Park? Because they've lost the last 2 games, Queen's Park.
Yeah, I still think that Airdrie are way adrift the rest of the sides in that league, I think, and I think Queen's Park will get the result there, Paul, tomorrow.
Yeah, I think on paper, for me, Airdrie are probably a good League One team right now. I think they're quite a bit away from being able to truly compete in this championship. It's a really high quality championship when you look at it, particularly kind of mid to top. They're a long, long way away. I actually thought they recruited well enough. They signed a couple of players that I thought, okay. But the more you look at it, you go, nah, that's League One. That's a League One.
And that's the thing, they lost a lot of players. Most of them went to Ireland. A lot of them are playing European football actually over in Ireland just now, So, no, I think Airdrie are caught adrift. Well, they are caught adrift, but I think
they're really good.
I think Airdrie will struggle
as well. I think they'd be towards the top of League One, but I think there's a real jump in quality from League One to Championship these days.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at League One, Dennis.
Yeah, only a couple of results from Tuesday this week was Alloa drawn with Dumbarton 2 each, and Cove Rangers been down 3-0 at home to Stenhousemuir. That's shock. Yep. That was a shock. Pretty wasn't available tonight either, but we'll get him on another day just to see how that had went. Tomorrow's matches: Annan have Cove, Kelty have Alloa Athletic, Montrose Inverness Cali, Stenhousemuir Dumbarton, and Arbroath Queen of the South. You can just throw them in the ring and see who comes out and tops. To be honest, they're all ties. We've said this before. That's a really tough division they're in, because even if you look at it, right down to 8th spot is 8th position, and there's only 10 points between that and Stenhousemuir, who are doing brilliant at the top, and then you've Inverness Cali on 4 and Dumbarton on 1. So if you take the 2, which is the circumstances that they're in, then you've got a really, really tight league from Annan at 14 points to Stenhousemuir on 24. And, there's scope for anybody there to get in the playoff positions in my eyes.
The two sides that are isolated at the bottom are obviously suffering for the fact that they're both in administration, so they've had the points lost.
They've been right in it as well. That's the easy thing. If they weren't obviously having their issues, they'd be right in and about potential playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a league that nobody wants to win. It's bizarre.
I know. If you look at the bottom, what a breath of fresh air for you. And without it being nasty, when you've got the likes of Inverness Cali and Dumbarton below you, like Annan have, with 14 points.
Yeah.
You say to yourself, well,
we're safe.
A wee bit of relief. Doesn't matter how we play, although they will be doing their utmost. But at the same time, you look at it and go, well, we don't need to be worrying about the bottom part of that league.
Yeah. But Dennis, when we very, very quickly when we had Ian last on the show, and it's only a number of short weeks away, Arbroath were isolated at the foot of that table. Look at them now, sitting there, 4th spot, 1 win off a top, and they've got a game in hand, indeed, on Stenhousemuir at the top. So Arbroath have really turned things around really well up there.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, Cammy, when we sat and we looked at Cove Rangers and talked about this.
Yeah.
Sitting at the top of the league. When Ian was on, they were bottom. Then we said, Ian, you come back on again when they're top. They were top. We didn't have them on. And now they're catapulted.
They're mid-table.
To 6th spot in the league.
Aye. As Paul says, it's a league that nobody wants to win.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they'll simply make an effort for it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and very quickly then we'll do the League 2 fixtures, and then we'll rattle through what we've got next week, midweek as well.
Yeah, okay. Let me see if I can get League 2. We've got Bonnie Rose are playing Spartans tomorrow. Clyde, Peterhead, East Fife, Elgin, Stirling, Albion have Edinburgh City. We touched on obviously how Clyde were doing.
We've done that league to death.
So yeah. So what fixtures are you looking at now, Cammy?
Well, we've got European ties midweek. Obviously the big one, I would imagine, is going to be Rangers and Spurs. Spurs coming up to Glasgow, aren't they? Spurs coming up, as opposed to Rangers going down there. So you've got that in the Europa League.
Yeah, I think
Celtic have got Champions League, and Hearts obviously are in their competition as well.
Rangers are at home to Tottenham. Now, having said that, one of my colleagues, we were talking today in a catch-up, and he's a Tottenham supporter, and he talks about how bad they are at this moment in time. And during the week, apparently, I didn't see the game. In fact, I think it might have just been last night. They were shocking. And they seem to be hot and cold. Now, Rangers, with this wee bit of form that they're hitting against teams who seem to dip, I'm expecting Tottenham, if they turn up, to win this game by maybe 4 goals. Rangers, if they go about their business as they've been doing in Europe, you never know what will happen here. And I'll tell you what, that will be a banana skin, and that could well be the turning point where these players get a bit more confidence, they punch above their weight, because some of them are just no good enough. But when they've got confidence, you get more out of them, and you never know where it takes Rangers. So I tell you what, I think that's, well, I'll be watching it. I think it's an outstanding tie. Not to see the best of Tottenham, but to see Rangers probably picking it up and having a right go at them.
Yeah. Paul's Big Ange coming back to Glasgow.
Yeah, there's that factor to it. I think Spurs backline's terrible.
Yeah.
From a European perspective, and you see in the Premiership, relatively mediocre Premiership teams can make them buckle.
Mm-hmm.
Bournemouth last night, probably prime example of that. It was 1 going on 5-0.
Yeah,
that's right.
They're definitely gettable, Spurs. They really are.
Yeah.
The one thing about them, but is they can go out 1 week and beat Man City 3-0, and then the following week they can lose 2-1 to Ipswich.
Yeah,
you know, and that's the thing, as you say, that they're definitely takeable.
Yeah, and that's what, you know, the lad my work was saying today, that you go and play the poor teams and you get gubbed. You go and play the top teams and you get a result, and that inconsistency is no good enough when you're at that level. And I think by all accounts, and I didn't see it, some of the supporters had gave him a bit of stick last night, and I think he maybe took the bait in it. So, no, something to be done. No, and Hearts are obviously playing as well on the Thursday. Is it Copenhagen they're playing, is it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, I think Hearts now are starting to get found out even in European football, you know. So the big two are doing Scotland proud, I think. You know, I think Celtic and Rangers are both doing Scotland proud in their respective competition. Hearts, I think, is starting to catch up with them. The lack of depth, the fact that they're watching over their shoulder in Scottish football as well, you know. And I think off the park, Hearts look as if they're getting things together, you know, but I think on the park they definitely look a bit of a mess still, you know, and they have a long way to go to match what they did last season.
Hearts are a million miles away from what they need up front, and I've rattled my gums a wee bit about this before. Shanklin's not the finished article. He shouldn't have the armband, because I think that could even be a distraction for the boy. I think he needs to play with freedom. I just think up front they are weak. You've got another player who, and I'm not even going to mention his name because it doesn't merit it, who thinks he's better than the Premier League and wants to go and play somewhere else. So Hearts have got issues up front, and if you can't score goals, you're not going to win games. And I think that's a problem. But having looked at this, Cammy, these ties, or the ties that we're talking about now, is Thursday the 12th of December. When did Hearts ever play at this time in their life?
Yeah, I know. Thank goodness for the competition.
I know the structure's changed slightly, but isn't that great that Hearts are still in Europe and will continue after Christmas with Europe? And that's great for every supporter. And you're just hoping that you maybe a wee glimmer of hope against the team they've got in Thursday night. Celtic, obviously, who we haven't touched on, they've got Dynamo Zagreb.
And a winnable game as well, you know. So. And
that's a 5:45 kickoff on Tuesday night. The good ties there as well without us going through, because I know we've run out of time. So that more or less covers everything, I think, what we'll need to do.
Yeah. As I say, a lot of good results. So we're hoping to cover England, but again, things ran away from us, you know, and let's be honest, it's Paul's got a dog to take out, you know, you get your dinner to go and get. I've got a couple of gins shouting my name, so we're just about done for the night. All that remains to be.
I will not enjoy mines. I won't.
It was a choice of the Premier League or Clyde.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer.
Oh, definitely no-brainer.
Incorrectly, lads, I won't lie.
But no, all that remains to be done. I say thanks very much, as always, to Dennis Newell. Thanks to Paul Shanks for stepping in at the last minute. And a really, really great guest, Paul. We'll have you on again if you don't mind. That'd be really, really good. Hopefully, Clyde will be in a better position. But thanks very much for coming on. You have been listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch. Go ahead, like, subscribe on YouTube, add a couple of wee comments, tell us how good you think it is that we're actually getting to see Dennis online and on air now as well. But leave a few comments here. Thanks very much. And just remember, it's always happening on the pitch. Good night.